What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I will take you guys through my Game Week 4 team selection. So what has actually happened in the news since I last recorded a video? That's exactly what we're going to be talking about just before we do get onto that Game Week 4 team selection. But before that, I'll be giving you guys a quick review of Game Week 3. I know it feels like forever since Game Week 3 has actually happened, and that's why I did release the Game Week 3 review last week so that it was fresh in our minds. So if you guys do want a more in-depth analysis of what happened in Game Week 3, I do recommend you guys go check out that video. I think I titled it something like Transfer Plans plus Game Week 3 Review. As in this video, it's going to be all about Game Week 4, so I'll just kind of be breezing through Game Week 3, giving you a little bit of an update, how many points we scored, where we are on the overall rankings, but we're going to be focusing on Game Week 4 and the transfer plan in this video. So throughout this video, we'll be touching on kind of my different transfer plans that I'm considering, whether it's going to be a -4 or a -8 going into that Game Week 4 deadline. So that's something you guys are interested in. Sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So going over a quick review of Game Week 3, I just want to say how many points we scored. Massive total of 72. Not really that massive, but it was higher than the average points, so I was quite happy with that. And that saw us rise in rank to just below that 90k mark. So finally, in that top 100k, I'm just happy that we've gotten off to a better start than we did last season. But as I've said throughout these kind of videos at the start of the season, Game Week 10 is really where we get kind of a realistic expectation of our rank. And I wouldn't be putting too much kind of emphasis if you guys have gotten off to a bad start. If you've gotten off to a good start, just kind of try and keep it up, because that's the way you're going to win FPL, obviously. And I think come Game Week 10, hopefully we're looking at a similar rank in terms of a top 100k at least, heading into kind of the business stage of the season. Top performers of Game Week 3, thankfully Buendia actually ended up returning. Unfortunately, he's going to be in the receiving end of probably a transfer out come that Game Week 4 deadline, as he did travel to Argentina. Successfully, not successfully, no one kind of knows after the cancellation of that Brazil fixture. So I don't really know if it was actually worth him going, but he's going to be banned for Game Week 4 anyways. So I think, as I said, going to take him out, and we're going to look at some other options later on in the video. So now going on to Game Week 4, which is what this video is going to all be about. So hopefully you guys have got your ears locked on to these talking points, as hopefully they're going to be quite informative, and I'll be giving you guys updates as we go into that deadline stream, where hopefully we will have some finalized news on a lot of these topics. And unfortunately, I'm recording this on Wednesday evening due to work, and there's a little bit of a glitch in the YouTube upload system. The videos are taking forever to upload, or at least render in HD, and that's why I wanted to record this video ASAP, so you guys get this news as soon as possible. So in this talking point, we're going to be kind of going from the ground up. So starting off with this kind of FIFA ban topic. So news has come out today that the football federations of a lot of countries, mainly South American countries, but you also have Mexico, which is obviously in Central America. So a player like Raul Jimenez could be on the receiving end of one of these FIFA bans. But the gist of it is that because the Premier League kind of blocked these players from traveling to the red zone countries, and that's why most of the South American countries are on the red zone, and that's why this mainly affects them, including a country like Brazil. So if you guys do remember, clubs like Leeds, Liverpool blocked their Brazilian players from traveling for these international qualifiers, and the Brazilian Federation and other federations were a little bit upset by this. So what they've asked for FIFA to do is put kind of a sanction on these domestic leagues, so that the players are banned for about 4 to 5 days, and that'll obviously make them miss Game Week 4. So I just want to let you guys know that FIFA has not imposed this ban as of yet. Maybe when you're watching this video, it has been announced, but as of yet, nothing has been kind of confirmed. Now, I'm not saying that they won't do this. I think it's about a 90% surety that they do. I just think that there is a little bit of hope that these clubs kind of oppose it. I think this is definitely the last that we hear about this before the deadline, and I think it's going to be quite back and forth between the domestic leagues and the football federations on kind of getting to a compromise, and maybe they'll release them in the next international break. We do still have 2 international breaks before the kind of December period, so just strap in for those. It's going to be quite a boring time, I think, between these, but it might liven up with this kind of conflict that's happening between the nations and the clubs. So in terms of overall effect for us FPL managers, I don't think it affects us too much, to be honest. None of us really own a Firmino and Alisson and Edison, but the one player that does kind of affect, that is quite highly owned, is going to be Rafinha from Leeds. So if you guys are a Rafinha owner, unfortunately he might not play, he might, but the fact of the matter is he was playing Liverpool anyway, so I mean it wasn't really that great of a fixture to begin with. So there might have been FPL managers that were actually going to bench him anyways, so now you're kind of given an extra reason. But if you guys are in a wild card, I wouldn't really be put off getting Rafinha in, because from game week 5 onwards, those Leeds fixtures look great. And if you're on a wildcard, as I said, you can put a bench option like a Ben White, a Duffy, who has a relatively good fixture that can just simply play in your starting 11 for one single game week. So in the deadline stream coming up on Saturday, I will give you guys some closure on this topic, as I don't think on Thursday, Friday, we're going to get any closure on it anyways. And I think it's going to stretch right till that game week 4 deadline, and might even stretch to the beginning of these kickoffs. I mean, imagine we have kind of a Brazil versus Argentina scenario where we do have Brazilian health officials step onto the field and kind of claim that these games should be called off. As far as I know, in terms of the FIFA rulings, if they do impose this sanction and the team actually ends up playing those Brazilian options, they forfeit the game 3-0 on paper. Now, the Premier League might come out and say that they're not even going to impose this kind of 3-0 forfeit, so that could be a whole other kind of scenario to go with. So just keep your guys' eyes open on the news, and I'm pretty sure we'll get some closure on this, hopefully as soon as possible for that deadline. Now going on to the next talking point, and that's going to be revolving around Jota and Tsimikas. So news has come out today. It was by a journalist kind of predicting the Liverpool lineup, and he actually had a little bit of an interesting paragraph in there stating that because Andy Robertson has played 4 games in the last 15 days after coming back from quite an injury, he thinks that Tsimikas might actually start. To be honest, when I saw that Robertson came off that injury, some people were taking him out when he returned against Chelsea. In the back of my mind, I always thought that Tsimikas could actually feature, because he did have some good performances for Liverpool in those kind of 2-3 games that he ended up playing. So I thought that maybe in the foreseeable future, he could end up getting a start. And that might be actually what happens here. And you guys must also remember that the Champions League does start next midweek. So what could happen is, because Robbo's been playing so many minutes, although Tsimikas is still playing for Greece in these international qualifiers, he didn't play the preceding Premier League game against Chelsea. So maybe Robertson gets a break, plays AC Milan on Wednesday. It is a home fixture for Liverpool, so that could kind of come into account. Maybe more rest for that Liverpool side. So if Robbo plays on Sunday, plays on Wednesday, could actually be perfectly fine, but who kind of knows with the situation. It is kind of nice though that Tsimikas does have an outside chance of playing, and that's what I'm kind of going to be waiting for. I'm going to be waiting for the press conference with Klopp to maybe see if we get some more news about Tsimikas. If there is an inch of hope that he does start, I might still keep him, and that might put me off that extra hit to bring Diego Jota in. But now we kind of have this scenario with Jota. If Firmino's going to be out for a prolonged amount of time, we don't really have news about that. The one worry I do have though is in the press conference, Klopp's going to simply say that Firmino's out if that sanction does come in from FIFA, because he's not going to be able to play anyway if he's sanctioned. And then that might cover up some injury news that we might have got in the press conference. So it is a little bit of an annoying scenario there, but unfortunately, just going to have to take that on the chin. But if we do get news that Firmino's going to be out for maybe a month or 2 months, I think I might be forced to take that hit for Jota, because Liverpool's fixtures are great and Jota's in good form as well. So this Jota Tsimikas scenario actually is going to be dependent on my transfers. If Firmino's going to be out for a long amount of time, I think that Jota has to come in, but if Tsimikas might start against Leeds, I might prolong that transfer for one more game week. Another final talking point to go over, and the reason why I put it at the top is because it's simply the most important thing that you guys have to watch out for, and that's going to be the press conferences coming up tomorrow and also on Friday. So please pay attention to these press conferences. We have so many talking points to go over in them, such as these FIFA bans, such as injury news that you guys have to watch out for. Remember, there were still players that didn't actually go on international duty, and they might have been training and picked up a little bit of a knock. So please keep that in mind, and that's my one single advice from this talking point. Just wait for these press conferences, and if you can delay your transfers, at least do it till after them so that you can make the most informed FPL decision that you guys can. So now going on to the Game Week 4 team, and the reason why I'm talking about this team before the transfers is, don't worry, this isn't my final team selection. This is just simply the talking points I wanted to go over before we do talk about the transfers. And that's going to give you guys a little bit of context, a little background into my kind of decision making and my moves. So starting off with the kind of exceptions here, the players that I want to get out, the two obvious ones are going to be Buendia and Danny Ings. So even if Buendia didn't travel for international duty, I still probably would have wanted to take him out, because Aston Villa do have quite a tough run of fixtures, at least for the next 3, and up against Chelsea, probably the best defense in the Prem at the moment. I don't think Danny Ings and Buendia are going to be getting too many returns. So these two players were my initial plans of taking out. I have 2 free transfers to take both of them out, but now we might have to take a hit now that Cristiano Ronaldo is back in the lineup, and Buendia and Ings out, unfortunately doesn't give me enough money to bring in CR7. So that is an obvious transfer out, and then the next kind of obvious one is going to be in the defense. So if you look at my bench there, Omobad, Medeli, Tsimikas, kind of my only coverage from a defensive point of view, and that doesn't look too great. And when you see Ayling in the starting 11 there against Liverpool, I don't really favour that fixture, to be honest. The thing about Ayling though that you have to take note of is that from game week 5 onwards, Leeds fixtures look absolutely great. So even if I do bring in another defensive coverage, I might want to go cheap just so that I can play Ayling for the foreseeable future. And then kind of another popular transfer out has been Bruno Fernandes, and that move is to kind of facilitate the introduction of Cristiano Ronaldo. So you're going to get that budget from Fernandes and you're going to upgrade one of your strikers. And the thing about this whole Ronaldo transfer, you might be arguing that it might not be worth a hit, but for me, I think if I'm going to be captaining Ronaldo, and if you guys do captain the player you bring in for a hit, it always makes it easier in the end because you're kind of giving yourself 2 chances to make that hit back, and that's exactly why if you're going to captain Ronaldo, I do think it's worth a hit. In terms of Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano Ronaldo, and is it worth kind of taking Bruno out? In my personal opinion, I think the want to get Ronaldo in is less than the one to get Bruno out, if you know what I'm kind of saying there. What I'm saying there is if Ronaldo's going to be starting for United against Newcastle, although he's a great captaincy option, I just think it makes Bruno Fernandes such a worse option in terms of FPL. Kind of going to be taking penalties in my opinion, taking direct free kicks. There's a lot of opportunities for Bruno maybe to score, and that's why I don't really think he's justified at that 12 million price point. So it's kind of a one to take Bruno out more than a one to bring Ronaldo in for me, but I guess it's a similar outcome there. I'm going to bring Ronaldo in anyway, depending on which side of the fence I was kind of sitting. In terms of the rest of the team, I don't think there's too much surgery that has to be done there. Most of the players still have good fixtures, so I think they could be on the receiving end of some nice FPL points come the end of game week 4. So I mentioned in the introduction that my current transfer plan was either going to be a -4 hit or -8 hit. So those 2 plans I'll be running through and showing you guys kind of the team selections if I were to go either option. And then within these kind of transfers, there could be switches that I do in terms of maybe not going for an Adama Traore, maybe going for another option like a Damari Gray. But I will probably confirm that as we do get more news from those press conferences in the deadline stream coming up on Saturday. So please make sure that you guys are on the deadline stream, as that will be the most updated team selection that you guys can get. But going on to this first transfer plan, this will be for a -4 hit, as I do have 2 free transfers. And the players that I'll be taking out will be Buendia and Danny Ings, kind of the Aston Villa combination, and then also going to be Bruno Fernandes. And then coming into the side will be Cristiano Ronaldo, Ismaila Sarr from Watford, and then Adama Traore from Wolves. So unfortunately, I won't be able to get Diego Jota in with this kind of transfer plan because I do already have a triple up. So I guess you can call this transfer plan if Tsimikas is going to start against Leeds, because if Tsimikas won't, then I really do think I'll be bringing Diego Jota in, especially if we do get news that Firmino is going to be out for quite a long time. But in terms of the 2 selections for the midfielders, the 2 6.0 kind of players, I could make other kind of variations to that. I could also bring in someone like a Rafinha if I don't want to really waste the transfer next week, because in terms of transfer plans, that'll definitely be a player that's on my watch list, as from game week 5 onwards, as I mentioned throughout this video, Leeds fixtures do look quite good. But in terms of the next couple, I think Ismaila Sarr, Adama Traore, perfectly good options to go for. I think the next Watford 3, although Watford and Wolves do play each other, after that they have some really stellar fixtures, and I think in terms of that kind of matchup between Wolves and Watford, I think that I can see both sides kind of scoring. So it's not really the end of the world kind of bringing in Sarr and Adama, even though they do play each other, as both are kind of really attacking wingers, and I'm sure I can see both of them getting returns in that fixture. And then we obviously will be bringing in CR7, and we'll be putting the captaincy on him, and that really makes him quite an attractive option, because if you are going to captain a player and you think they're the best captaincy option, it does make it quite easy to bring them in for the next couple game weeks. In terms of the players out, I don't think there's much kind of risk in these. I'm bringing in Ronaldo, and I think that he should perfectly cover Bruno Fernandes. And then in terms of Danny Ings and Buendia, in terms of those fixtures coming up, the fixtures don't look great, and Aston Villa haven't been that great from an attacking point of view anyways, so I don't think there's much loss kind of taking these 2 players out. So if I was to make those 3 transfers for a -4 hit, this is what the team selection would look like. So starting off with the defense, won't touch on it too much, but as I said, this is going to be if Tsimikas manages to start against Leeds, and that I would really be fond of, because this allows me to kind of start Ayling for the foreseeable future in this lovely Leeds fixtures, and not really have to rely on Tsimikas playing too much. So I know that that Leeds fixture isn't that great anyways, a very attacking side. I don't even know if Liverpool will keep a clean sheet, but it's just kind of playing the odds there, and not having to take another -4 hit to bring Diego Jota in, and maybe Tsimikas could get a clean sheet or an attacking return, and that will be most welcome, to be honest. We then also have Sanchez, who plays Brentford, which is quite a good fixture, to be honest. I'm kind of hoping for Tony Blank and a Sanchez clean sheet in that one, as that'll be quite a nice little gift in terms of not only getting a clean sheet, but also blocking another highly owned attacking option. Luke Shaw against Newcastle, got high hopes for this fixture, as I think that United will do well with this kind of CR7 reunion at Old Trafford. It is a home fixture as well, so that'll be a great boost from a defensive and an attacking point of view. So I think that Luke Shaw could be on the receiving end of some defensive and attacking returns. Now going on to the midfield where things have shaken up a bit, we have Adama Traore and Ismaila Sarr both playing each other, and as I said, I think I can see both of these two players getting returns at the end of the day, and if I do this transfer plan, I'm probably hoping for quite a high scoring game. We then have Greenwood also against Newcastle, and I think that he will start this fixture. I think the front four for United will be Greenwood, Sancho, Ronaldo, and then Bruno Fernandes at that cam slot, so I really do hope that Greenwood can keep up this form that he's been on, and I do think that's quite likely against the Newcastle side that haven't been too great defensively. We then go on to Mo Salah, I think an underrated option for Campsey this week against the Leeds side that sometimes Liverpool do well against, sometimes they don't. Just kind of depends how the fixture flows. If Liverpool do score early on, I think this game will be quite high scoring, and then you got to favour Mo Salah to be on the receiving end of some returns. Ben Rama against Southampton is another option I'm quite excited to own. I know that I did break him last week in their fixture against Crystal Palace, but hopefully he's not too broken and he can get some returns against the Southampton side that also have been a little bit hit or miss, but in terms of the defence, you can't really rate them too much defensively. Then going on to our front line, I mentioned in the transfer plan that I would definitely captain Ronaldo if I brought him in, as I do think he's the best captain option this week, and if he does manage to start, I think we will get news if he's going to start or not. He did actually train yesterday on Tuesday afternoon, so I think he'll be perfectly fine in terms of fitness and in terms of integration into that squad to get a start, and then unfortunately probably will be taken off before the end of the fixture just to kind of get applause from the Old Trafford fans. And the final player in the starting 11 is going to be Antonio. Against Southampton, I really am favouring him to get some returns, and he has had double-digit hauls in the opening 3 game weeks. So can he continue that? Hopefully. Might even be a differential captain if you guys want to go for him, but I think I'll be sticking to the main man, the Portuguese striker, CR7. On the bench, nothing much to worry about there. Omabad Medeli, Scarlett won't feature at all, and then I'm just kind of hoping that if Ayling does have to come on, he might get an attacking return, because I do think that Leeds will concede to Liverpool. So now going on to our next transfer plan, which is going to be a little bit more maverick, as this will entail a -8 hit. I'm actually quite comfortable with taking that -8 hit just because it is allowing me to save the wildcard, as I don't really think the wildcard is an option for me this week because I don't really want that many changes to my current selection. But in terms of the extra addition here, we will be taking out Tsimikas, and then we'll be bringing in Nelson Semedo from Wolves, and then obviously Diego Jota will come in because we then have lost that Liverpool triple up, and we'll regain the triple up by bringing in 3 Liverpool attackers. So I really do like Diego Jota, especially as I've mentioned if Firmino is going to be out for a longer amount of time, but there might still be some rotation in that front line, and now that we've seen that Harvey Elliott is going to be in the starting 11 for some fixtures, he might actually start in that wing position instead of maybe a Mo Salah, Sadio Mane, or a Diego Jota. So the 4 players that we will be bringing in are going to be Ronaldo, obviously, Jota already mentioned, again Adama Traore, but he could maybe be switched out for another option, and then also Nelson Semedo. So I did have some money left in the bank here, so that's why I mentioned that I could upgrade Adama Traore to maybe another option, but right now at 6 million, I don't really think there's too many options there, and for me it's between Ismaila Sarr and then also Traore from Wolves. Nelson Semedo is another nice option that I could actually bring in, and I do think he's one of the more nailed kind of defenders. So some people are asking about Marcel at 4.5. While I can understand the appeal because he is kind of cheaper, I do think Semedo is a little bit more nailed, and that's why I think that extra price tag might be justified. Those Wolves fixtures just are so good, and although they have lost and conceded in the opening 3, they have only lost 1-0 in all 3 of those fixtures. So I think that Wolves defense is quietly quite confident that they can keep a couple of clean sheets, and with those lovely fixtures coming up, I think from an attacking and a defensive point of view, we got to target them. So although I don't really want to take a -8 hit at this stage of the season, I do think if, for example, Firmino's out, Jota will comfortably make that up in the next couple game weeks, and as I said, I will captain Ronaldo anyways, so that's going to make up the points. And because Buendia won't play anyways, I think that's going to be worth kind of taking the hit, because as long as the option that I bring in gets 2 points, it's going to be half price hits with a -2. So now going on to this selection, and I won't really talk about it too much because it's relatively the same as the last kind of team selection. The only options that come in are going to be Nelson Semedo, and as I mentioned, from a defensive point of view, Wolves have looked quite strong, although they have conceded. I think they might be a little bit unlucky to have conceded, and against a Watford side that started off the season quite well and then kind of calmed down a little bit. But what worries me is that it is a home fixture for Watford, and we have seen these promoted sides get a lot of hype behind them because of the home fans, and that does worry me slightly, and that's why maybe I'm leaning towards the Ismaila Sarr and Adama combo instead of going for 1 Wolves attacker and 1 Wolves defender. Jota against Leeds, I mean, even if he just had that Leeds fixture and Firmino was going to be banned for only 1 fixture, or at least injured for 1 fixture, I still do think he's worth kind of having. So if you guys are on a wild card, you can always just have him and then downgrade him to Rafinha if Firmino does come back from that injury a little bit earlier than expected. There obviously are kind of other variations that I can do with these transfers. I could just take out a Danny Ings, a Buendia, and then keep Bruno Fernandes and captain him. But I just think from that attacking point of view, Ronaldo is just so much better of an option. And if he does start, that's the kind of caveat with him, is that I want to know that he is going to start. He'll be on pens, he'll be on direct free kicks, and that just makes me think that Bruno isn't worth that 12-point price tag. But this is basically wrap the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like it if you did, and subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. As I mentioned, please be in the deadline stream on Saturday for the most up-to-date team selection as possible, as I simply just can't commit to a transfer plan currently with all this news that still has to come. So hopefully I do see you there. But I'm going to be signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.